Candice Catnipp was a member of the Vandenreich Sternritter. After being defeated, but before she could be absorbed by Juhavak's Auswählen, she had been retrieved by Squad 12. At present, she had been half zombified by Mayuri Kurotsuchi as a functioning specimen and turned into the department's registered bloodhound, amounting to a prisoner being put into forced labor. Several days ago, Department of Research and Development, Mayuri stood before a gigantic tube half full of some sort of liquid, which Candice was half submerged in. Her entire body was wrapped in chains, and tubes and electrodes attached to her limbs and nape.
My, aren't you stubborn? You're still not in the mood to cooperate.
Why would you ever think I'd yield to you under these circumstances, huh?
What a strange thing to ask. If you're able to raise your voice like that, you should already realize that you've been given the best kind of treatment a test subject could be given.
Well, at least I was already aware of you being a crazy sadist way before this.
So close. When you say sadist, I believe you are mispronouncing scientist.
So you're not going to deny you're crazy?
From an ordinary person's point of view, the acts of a genius will naturally seem odd. Though it makes me feel such a pity for those who can only quiver in fear and reject any new endeavor they encounter. Humoring every single one of them is simply a waste of time.
So, what? You want me to cry tears of gratitude to the Soul Reapers who healed my wounds just so they could turn me into their pawn?
We didn't really heal your wounds, to be precise. It's more accurate to say we rebooted what was almost a corpse. Well, we more or less were able to finish our experiments and dissection while you were half dead.
Wait, what did you say? Dissection?
As far as we see it, we saved you from a heartless owner who, far from abandoning you, was about to mercilessly devour you. So I don't think it would be out of order for you to offer a word or two of gratitude.
Ha! All you did was uncollar a dog. I haven't sunk low enough to choose scum like you as my new owner.
I am so upset that you think I'm scum. I am known as a prominent gentleman among the 13 court guard squads, one who hates to see ladies roughed up.
And you think this isn't roughing me up? You bastard!
We've already long finished our research into you Quincy's, rare species that you are. Though it was somewhat difficult to analyze the Quincy's who received the divided power of that subspecies Juhavak, or would it be more accurate to call him a purebred? Finalizing the results were easy enough because we had enough samples. Had we not, we would have simply analyzed you until you were nothing more than goo like our past samples.
I have no idea what's happening, but if you're done analyzing me, you can hurry up and off me already. But don't think I'll go down without a fight. I'll turn all of you into cinders before I go. I'll start with that Ichigo Kurosaki for making a fool out of me.
That man is already long gone from the Soul Society. And he's so naive that if he saw you in your current circumstances, I wouldn't put it past him to complain that I was being unreasonable. In any case, we have no need for specimens for internal research, yes. However, if you are uncooperative in the upcoming battles, in other words, if you don't work with us to evaluate your performance in battle, we will need to stock up on replacements.
Replacements?
It seems that the zombie girl and the little glutton girl that you are working with have been sneaking around Waco Mundo of late. Well, we have finished our research into zombies and have our conjectures about the gluttony ability, so I don't have any particular interest in them.
What? Hey, wait. Lil and Gigi are alive? Then is Bambi too?
Yes, the bomb girl seems to still be zombified, however. Really? Even after showing their faces to me, I cannot believe they would not realize that I placed tracking bacteria into them. Quincy's truly are a heedless bunch.
If that's the case, why are you leaving them alone? Other than you, the Soul Reapers don't have a reason to leave them be, right?
Though it is exceedingly unfortunate for me, the head captain and the others accepted their offer to set up a united front against Juhavak during the war. That means they no longer see them as hostile forces. My, though they did it for the purpose of defeating Juhavak, I believe they are being incredibly generous.
A united front? So they betrayed His Majesty? Actually, I can't believe His Majesty actually tried that on us. If that's the case, knowing Lil's personality, she's definitely one too.
What do you think? As I am someone who is known to have love running through his veins in place of blood, If you will tell me that you will cooperate, then I'm not opposed to returning specimens that have completed their experiments back to her fellow Quincy's.
Present day. Candice hadn't believed what Mayuri said. However, she pretended she was going along with him in order to contact the outside world. She used the equipment that Mayuri had prepared as a base for the shadow movements that was characteristic of the Vandenreich, in order to strike her targets with a massive hit of lightning from close range. Although its powers had decayed after her Volsterndick had been stolen, she still hit them with an electrocution that surpassed the power of natural lightning. Mayuri, who was observing from a distance, narrowed his eyes and shook his head.
Good grief. It seems she did not properly understand what secure the bodies meant. I don't remember preserving her so sloppily that it would result in brain decay.
Didn't I tell you that tomboy doesn't seem to have any grace? So delicate strategies aren't her thing.
Who gave you permission to speak?
Mayuri pressed a button in his hand, and an electric shock whizzed behind him.
In the face of ultimate beauty, a shock like this is the same as a spotlight.
Don't make such a fuss of it. Why must we be dragged into this and receive an electric baptism?
Actually, why is Charlotte so ecstatic when she's the main one who got it?
Just what I was getting used to when he increased the voltage, damn it!
The four of them were powerful Arankar who had been treated as the living dead in the Department of Research and Development and were used as experimental subjects and hunting dogs in the Kurotsuchi Corps unit. Dordoni and Cirucci did their jobs as though it were contracted work, without caring about it, Luppi accepting half out of resignation, and Charlotte seemed to enjoy it.
In any case, did we really need to come all the way out here?
You are like suppression equipment for any Quincy subjects that malfunction. Have you realized how generously lenient I am to allow you to breathe fresh air from the outside?
If you just need them suppressed, why can't you use that lightning or poison you're so proud of?
Hey, stop trying to provoke him! What good will goading him into another shocking do?
As Luppi scolded Cirucci, Charlotte was posing for mysterious reasons.
Actually, what about that promise to let me see the orange-haired Niño?
I plan on bringing him along soon. In fact, the target we are capturing this time is a substitute Soul Reaper like Ichigo Kurosaki. And he is also the man whose thread of life Ichigo Kurosaki himself severed.
Oh, if he killed a human like himself rather than holos like us, does that mean he left his naivete behind? In that case, I can't call him a Niño anymore.
He is a unique specimen to call a human. If I were to elaborate, he once cut down a Quincy named Uryu Ishida.
What? You're screwing with me. There's no way that irritating four-eyed Quincy could have been killed off so easily by such a nobody.
Ah, then that just proves he isn't such a nobody. Well, that is exactly why I ordered the Quincy corpse to go retrieve him this time around. There's no retrieving any bodies. They'll be cinders by now.
However, Mayuri showed no signs of being flustered as he continued his observations.
This is quite interesting, isn't it? Huh? What is that?
As the smoke rose where the lightning had struck, the corpse unit opened their eyes wide, and Mayuri smiled merrily as he compared what he saw to the data that flowed from his observation equipment.
If that's just a fraction of the full-bring power, it really has caught my attention.
What is this thing? What am I looking at right now?
Candice broke into a cold sweat. The three men had survived the lightning strike, but what struck fear into Candice was the gigantic tree that had abruptly appeared by the men, which stretched into the air as though it were stabbing at the heavens. The tree hadn't been there before Candice had unleashed her electrocution.
Damn it! Most of the lightning strike was redirected into the tree. Ah!
A blade closed in before Candice's eyes. She narrowly leapt back as the place she had been standing was sheared by the blade of Ginjo's large sword. A chill ran down Candice's spine. She twisted her body and leapt to the side as an attack was unleashed from Ginjo's sword and ripped through the reishi in the air, grazing her. The attack plunged through the smoke that came from the singed tree and eventually pierced the side of a distant hill, blowing away part of its slope.
That was Ichigo Kurisaki's attack!
Huh? You fought the guy, little lady? So that's how you dodged it. Got pretty lucky there, didn't you? You better thank Ichigo for that.
What? You want me to think who?
She became enraged and coiled lightning around her entire body.
Oh dear, aren't you a short-tempered little lady? Though we've been pretty reckless in our own ways.
He glanced at the scorched tree standing next to him. It wasn't a big deal. I just nurtured a tree in my spare time while I read my book. I tried everything I could do since it was a sapling.
Just how many years ago did you insert yourself into it?
When Candice had appeared, Tsukishima had used his Book of the End to cut a tree near him, inserting himself into the tree's past and giving the tree a twisted amount of nourishment in order to turn it into a massive giant.
You don't look like a Soul Reaper. Since you use a bow, you seem to be a Quincy. But if you're one of the survivors of those that fought the Soul Reapers, then I don't get why you'd want to attack us. Have you got a connection with execution in the world of the living?
Why are you spouting nonsense? No tree is gonna protect you now. Just be good little boys and turn into cinders already.
She started to rapid-fire attacks using her bow clad in lightning. Meanwhile, lurking a distance away, a man was carefully observing the fight.
Good grief! That idiot's completely forgotten she's supposed to capture them. I hope I don't get treated like an incompetent by that perverted scientist with her. Well, make sure you make a good show of crushing each other, since I can observe tons.
NaNaNa Najahkoop was close to being a corpse after Basby served him a fatal wound, but Mayuri made him into one of his rebooted Quincy. Though he hadn't shown any rebellion toward Yuhavak, he now prioritized surviving and biding his time for a chance to escape. Being able to see the outside world was an opportunity for him, and he intended to observe as many Soul Reapers as he could. The morphine pattern ability of his U shrift, the underbelly, searches for holes in the spiritual pressures of his opponents, and could force those holes to open wider in order to stop the spiritual pressure's operations. Though, when he tried to use it on Mayuri...
There's no point in observing me. Changing my spiritual pressure pattern every second is fundamental.
But are those guys what they call full-bringers? This is my first time seeing them. But there certainly is something hollow-like mixed in with the patterns of their spiritual pressures.
The world of the living, Karakura Town. Please wait a moment, Mr. Urahara. Why are you bringing up his name now? Oh, you were acquainted with him? When Miss Kuchiki and the others came to give Mr. Kurosaki his Soul Reaper powers, I believe you weren't present, were you? Well, I just happened to run into him in Rukongai earlier. That's quite the coincidence. He's basically living as a human, so you wouldn't feel anything odd from his spiritual pressure unless you were to fight him. Does the Fullbring ability have anything to do with that? Yes. Would you like me to review things just a bit from this point? When Urahara brushed the edge of a tatami mat, a giant whiteboard dropped from the ceiling. Alongside unintelligible equations, the board featured sinister-looking drawings of Soul Reapers, and at the top read, Strange, thrillingly grotesque, how to make a demonic Soul Reaper, temporary. Oops, sorry. You pressed a corner of the board, and somehow all the writing and diagrams neatly disappeared, leaving a pure white surface. Alright, first about the Fullbringers.
What the hell was that? You can't just cover all that up so casually!
Well, it's quite embarrassing. Demonic Soul Reaper is just a temporary name, so don't worry. I'll come up with a more stylish name to rival the Characterizer.
That's not the issue! What even is a Characterizer? Also, that just made me remember. After the war ended, Miss Shihoin was looking scary as hell, going around asking everyone who went to Ryokyu, did you see me when I fought that last battle? And when anyone carelessly said that they did, she kicked them around until their memories disappeared. Does that have anything to do with this?
Well, I was certainly in dire straits after that, but it's not directly related. I suppose you could say that putting my craft to use is all in a day's work.
Sorry. Please tell me what the Fullbringers are.
Then how about I get the easy stuff over with first? So, in this world, there are several intelligent races. To put it in broad terms, there are humans, Soul Reapers, Pluses, and Hollows, I suppose. Well, putting aside that Hollows were originally human Konbaku, fundamentally, Fullbringers are derived from humans. Urahara started to write on the whiteboard.
So does that mean they're mutations?
I suppose you could say they are forced to mutate through external forces. To put it generally, Mr. Sato and Miss Inoue are also included here.
Huh? But I heard that their powers came from the influence of being near the Hogyoku.
Yes, that's why the events leading up to their becoming that way are slightly different from other Fullbringers. However, only the process was different, and their origins and the results are the same. Fundamentally, Fullbringers were still in the womb when their mothers were attacked by Hollows. If they're able to survive the attack and are safely brought into the world, the children are influenced by that Hollow factor, and it is thought that the possibility their Fullbringer abilities will awaken in the future is high. I feel like I've definitely heard that somewhere before. But I'm impressed they'd be able to survive a Hollow attack. A Soul Reaper or Quincy likely came to their rescue in the nick of time. At least, that would be the conclusion one might naturally come to. But if that were the case, wouldn't you think that the Soul Society would have been more aware about the fact that the children of those pregnant women they had just saved had the potential to become Fullbringers? Oh. I also have been gathering all kinds of information on Fullbringers since I learned of their existence, but does it make sense that the Soul Reapers, who have fought Hollows for tens of thousands of years, would have less information on them than me? I had Miss Hamakata look into it, but any evidence about them in the Great Spirit Archive seems to have disappeared just recently. Well, they're only obligated to keep information about the Soul Society, so I don't think they'd have much on the world of the living. But how about the visual department? The temperature in Hisagi's heart plummeted. Over the last few days, he had learned that the Tsuneyashiro family had established the visual department. Is that why you're telling me all this now? It wouldn't be strange to think they'd know something. Well, I'm not the one who needs to do the rest of the work now. That's the job of a journalist with a backbone. So then the Fullbringers, or rather, Ginjo's group, are also involved with the Tsuneyashiro family in some way. Whoa there, don't have such a stern expression. Jinta might actually wet his pants if he came home to that. But a guess is just a guess. This is all the information I can give as of right now. I have several other conjectures, but in the unthinkable chance that I'm mistaken, I'd be causing a great deal of trouble to many people. On account of that, I'd like a bit more information to settle my guesses. In other words, you want information from me, too. I've asked Miss Yoruichi for the same. I'd like data from all angles. As a matter of fact, what you just told me about that child Hikone was an extraordinarily useful data point. Thank you very much. I feel like you're getting the better of me, but I understand. If you're willing to put your trust in me as a journalist and a Soul Reaper, then I'll do what I can. Well, what do we have here? Looks like we've got ourselves a deal. I suppose we'll be badgers in the same hole for many years to come. Actually, what's the relationship between Fullbringers and Hollows? I don't mean their origins, but their current power dynamic. Their parents were attacked by Hollows, so I'd guess there would at least be some ties between them. I'm sure that Hollows would vary in whether they'd be cautious or amused upon seeing humans with the same traits as them. Well, ultimately we have to take it on a case-by-case basis, since there has been an increase of fairly thoughtful Arankars lately. The Soul Society, the Rukongai outskirts. Piercing thunder rang out countless times. Of course, the neighboring residents hadn't approached after the first lightning strike, and everyone had hidden in their homes. Naturally, the lightning had been observed from the Serite, but Mayuri had put in a petition to perform experiments, so none of the other Soul Reapers came to investigate. Because of the continuing thunder, Ginjo's group hadn't been able to hear the sound of the gigantic tree being snapped out of the ground by something's fist.
No, Candy. Your orders were to capture them, so I think you'll get in trouble if you burn them.
Ginjo and the others looked up to see Meninas holding the broken tree in one hand and dropping it from the sky.
Hey, how can you be so stupidly strong?
The scorched tree fell on him, causing the ground to quiver and a dust cloud to rise.
Are you an idiot, Meni? We'll get in trouble if you crush them too.
But if all I do is crush them, I think that weird scientist would still be able to do something with them.
Then he'd be able to fix them even if I burn them up. Well, it doesn't matter anyway. We need to use this chance to try getting in contact with Lil and the others. Huh?
A crushing sound resonated from the tree on the ground, and a power that rivaled Meninas slung the scorched tree right back at them.
No way! Nobody other than Meni can do something like that.
Meninas and Candice dodged it narrowly. In front of their eyes was Giriko, whose height now seemed to exceed 15 feet, and his body had transformed to resemble a huge hollow with swelling and distorting muscles. The Quincy girls guessed that he had not only stopped the falling tree, but also thrown it back at them.
Ooh. Looks like this time, we are just facing some muscle-bound idiot.
I think swelled up muscles like those are gross.
Many, when you really go all out, your arms and everything end up looking like that too.
Hey, can you stop making a big show of things too? And what did you mean by this time? Come to think of it, I never asked Kutsuzawa how he died.
Ginjo, I made a mistake. In order to properly wear the God of Time's power on my body, I must have a clear offering of time to give.
Right.
Yes. What governs over my time tells no lies. Is time. I have offered a vast amount of time that Tsukishima inserted into the gigantic tree to the infinite torrents of time. And pure strength has roosted within me. I will not make the same blunder as before. Now, let me thoroughly demonstrate this power I have received from God.
Why are you getting so worked up about this?
What am I going to do now that you've gone and offered the past I inserted? The gigantic tree that had been thrown had at some point shrunk back into a small tree and shattered into pieces as it fell.
Your blustering ends now. No matter how this goes, you're all getting the death penalty.
Again, I don't think we can kill them when we're on a mission to capture them.
Meninia began to thrash Giriko. Her arm swelled like a gigantic log and creaked with strength as she swung it down diagonally as though it were spring-loaded. Though he wrapped his enlarged hand around it, Giriko's balance crumbled under the attack.
Oh ho! If you're able to make me stagger, then you weren't just all talk.
I haven't actually said anything, though.
Meninia then unleashed several consecutive attacks using her arms, and Giriko continued to receive and handle them without breaking a sweat. The ground started to crack beneath them, and when Giriko's knees sank into it for a moment, Meninia found an opening to add a powerful strike. However, in response, Giriko straightened his leg and launched his power away from the ground.
Feel it with your own body! Know that you cannot budge the flow of time which strikes that lack reference in God!
Giriko's simple shoulder tackle from below sounded like the impact of a train striking a cow as it blew Meninia into the air. Giriko tried to use his full bring to follow up, but countless arrows pierced him, and at the same time high-voltage lightning rushed through.
Ha! You know what a giant is? A good target.
Though even more arrows came flying, Ginjo, who had come out in front, brushed them all off.
You're being too careless, Kutsuzawa. Making yourself big just makes you a more convenient mark for a Quincy.
Not at all. There's no need to worry about me. The power I gained through the contract should hold back even the pain from a lightning strike.
Guess we have no choice. I'll make a distraction. While I do that, Tsukishima, you insert yourself into one of them.
Yeah, alright. If I look into their pasts, I should be able to figure out exactly what their goal is. Ginjo planned to coordinate and end things early, but he sensed a strong spiritual pressure rise up from the distance.
Captain, we found an anomaly in the Reishi. 3 spirit miles west-northwest. A Garganta's about to open.
On a run car, then. I've seen this turn of events before. It isn't that plaything from the 4 great noble clans. This one is a genuine run car. Good grief, Ichigo Kurosaki isn't even here. Every last one of them is such a nuisance. Really now.
The Garganta had opened far into the west, and the person that had appeared from it bolted through the Soul Society, like a predator rushing into the savannah after spotting its prey.
Huh?
The Quincy's and Foolbringers turned their attention toward the Arankar presence approaching them. It was too formidable for them to ignore. Before Ginjo and the others could prepare themselves and figure out their identity, there was a surge of wind, and within it a blue-haired beast tore through the air. The Quincy's threw lightning and boulders at it, but the Arankar bulldozed its way through them and rushed into the middle of the battleground. Then the wind subsided around them.
What the hell's this? I came here because I thought I felt the presence of something mixed, but it ended up being neither of them. Well, never mind. Kurosaki wasn't the target today anyway.
Grimmjow observed Ginjo as though appraising him, and then determined he was the strongest of the lineup in front of him.
You better hurry up and tell that brat Hikone that I came to finish what they started.